On episode 468 of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet Cathy Richards and discuss her book, Boom, 6 Steps to a Longer, Healthier Life. You can find the full show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/468. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness Podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Are you thinking about those extra pounds you put on during 2020 and how you can take them off during 2021? Or maybe you've already started and stopped a weight loss diet or exercise program and need some help. It is my experience that most people spend almost all of their time in the wondering what to do and planning what to do space without successfully taking that next step to action. If this is true for you, I want to talk. Over the past few weeks, I've been enrolling beta testers into my most ambitious weight loss program ever. It's a 12-week program that will change your life. If you're interested in learning more and perhaps being a part of the beta group at a significant discount, I might add, email me at alan@40plusfitnesspodcast.com. That's alan@40plusfitnesspodcast.com. Raz, how are you doing?
Great, Alan. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. We're recording this. Actually, as we're recording this, it's a little bit before Christmas. But this episode we're talking about won't go live until January 11th. And that's by design. So you and I can take some time off during the holidays and not have to worry about getting podcasts put together and out the door. So that's where we're at today. I have a very busy week because in that effort to try to get ahead, I requested and accepted a lot of different interview requests and different people. And they all said yes.
Wow, that's great news.
It's great news, except I have 4 interviews to do this week. So it's 4 books I got to read
boy.
and prepare for it. Well, actually, one's not a book. One's an app, but there's a topic behind it that I need to do a little bit of research and understanding so I can speak appropriately and with the right level, because it's 2 researchers out of Alabama that discuss fat loss and performance. And so, yeah, I've got to prepare for that. And then there's 3 books I have to have read. So as soon as I get off this call, I'm back to reading again.
That sounds nice. It sounds very relaxing too.
Yeah. Health and fitness books, which, like I said, I'd probably pay to read myself. So I get paid to do something I do enjoy. But when the clock's on and I've got to get 2 books read in the next 24 hours.
Ooh. I hope you read fast.
I do. I can typically get through a standard size book. So most health and fitness books are about 240 pages on average. I can get through one of those in about 6 hours.
Nice.
The one of them I'm reading today, I think, is 180. So I should get through that a little bit faster. And then the other one, I'm not sure. I haven't checked the length on that one. But so I'm looking at probably having a good 14 hours of reading to do before tomorrow. So.
Oh my gosh.
It's like a job.
It is. My goodness. I was going to say it'd be a relaxing way to spend this time, but not all at once.
Yeah, but it'll be good. It'll be good. They're going to be good talks.
Awesome.
I'm really excited to meet these authors because they're topics that are really, really important to me. So it'll be good. It'll be good. You're going to like these guys.
Fantastic.
All right. So today we're going to talk to Cathy Richards. Yeah, really interesting woman. Really got her stuff together, and her book is called Boom, and it's actually a really cool book because she kind of spells out a lot of the kind of just the basics of what we want to be doing to improve our overall fitness. So I guess I'll go ahead and introduce Cathy. Our guest today, owner of Inspiring Vitality, is a lifestyle and wellness strategist and speaker who helps individuals and organizations maximize physical health, brain function, and energy levels. She spent the first 15 years of her career in corporate wellness for Marriott International, Inc. She then spent 8 years in wellness for older adults with Asbury, the 15th largest non-for-profit continuing care retirement community in the U.S. Merging these 2 experiences led her to her unique never too early, never too late approach. With a master's degree in exercise physiology and a bachelor's degree in kinesiological sciences, and over 20 years as a wellness coach, she unlocks key mindset shifts and strategies for lasting motivation and lifetime change at any age. Her certifications include ACM/SM's Certified Exercise Physiologist, Well Coach's Certified Fitness Coach, Senior Fitness Association Certified Senior Fitness Instructor, Long-Term Care Instructor, and Brain Fitness Facilitator. With no further ado, here's Cathy Richards. Cathy, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Yeah. Hey there, Alan. Great to be here.
Now, you picked up on a word that I find myself using all the time when I'm talking to my clients. They'll tell me something that's gone on really, really well, and I can't help but say, boom, there you go.
That's right. Boom.
So the name of the book is Boom: 6 Steps to a Longer, Healthier Life. And I really like that title because, again, it just kind of explains breaking away, doing something different. What you hear when a plane goes through the speed of sound, or there's the boom, of that breaking the sound barrier. And so I like that word, and I like the way you approach this book.
Thank you. Well, boom can have so many meanings. And so when I think of boom, it's like a wake up call, something that rocks your world, something that you can't ignore, that we have this urgency to attend to. And then I also love it when how people say sometimes boom, done. Like it's just, boop, it's a foregone conclusion. It's just going to happen. And so there's so many meanings of boom, and they're all about taking action.
Yeah. And I think that's the point. I was talking about celebrating when it's done. But when you know what you're going to do is going to happen, you can start that celebration as soon as you take on the challenge, provided that you have the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, unfortunately, many of us, and it's something I still struggle with from time to time, is just find myself falling back on unhealthy mindsets. Could you talk about that a little bit? What they are, some of the major ones that we deal with, and some of the things we can do to fix it?
It's so important. So, so if my book is about 6 steps to a longer, healthier life, step 1 is mindset. Everything begins with our mindset. And we have a lot working against us with the media and with pop culture. And so we a lot of times fall into these things about all or none. We think that if we're not going to change into exercise clothes and go to a gym for a whole hour, we might as well not bother. When the truth is that there are significant benefits from even modest investments of time. So it doesn't have to be all or none. And if you never considered yourself someone who loved big workouts, it's not an option. You can definitely do something smaller and less overwhelming to you. And we have the mindset you mentioned of quick fix. Like, it's so tempting to believe that something can happen overnight. But what works isn't quick. It's not glamorous. It's not even new. It's the consistency. So being able to stay positive and being able to focus on what you can do and keeping up with it, the consistency, that's where it's all at.
Yeah, I think so many people will go into this, like you said, there's the all or none. So if I can't put in an hour, I may as well not even go. Or I've been doing this for 3 days. Why isn't the scale moving?
Yeah.
But then there's also people that, you've tried and you've tried and you've tried, but now you're filled with this pessimism.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe I'm just meant to be this way, and it doesn't matter what I do.
That's right. We think, well, it's just genes, or a lot of times we feel like, oh, it's just because I turned 40 or it's just because I turned 50, that we think that it's age related. And most of the changes, a lot of the changes that we like to blame on age are really due to not the physiological aging process itself, but the gradual inactivity that typically comes with aging. So when we tell ourselves we can't do something, when we tell ourselves, oh, it's too late for me, I'm too old, it's too late, or when we get so down on ourselves from all these failed attempts, what are you going to drown your sorrows in when you fall off the wagon the 11th time? It's certainly not going to be a salad.
Yeah, I that's one of the core things. I think a lot of people will approach this and say, this is the way it is. This is who I'm supposed to be, or this is how I'm supposed to age. And I think one of my favorite quotes is, "We don't stop playing because we got older. We got older because we stopped playing." And a lot of that is because, to change is hard.
Mhm.
We like these comfortable little bubbles we build ourselves. And as we get a little older, that bubble actually gets a little smaller. If we're not
Mhm.
if we're not pushing the boundaries of that bubble, we're trying to push our comfort zone. If we're not trying to do a little bit of that, it tightens up on us.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I observed, and actually when I decided to write my book, it was after I spent 8 years as a director of wellness for a senior living community where the average age was 85. So I was around over 1,400 85-year-olds day in and day out for 8 years. And working in corporate wellness first and then going to senior wellness, I wanted to bring messages back to those of us in just our 40s and 50s that if you ask yourself, what type of 85-year-old do I want to be? Because you're working on it right now. It's these habits right now that are going to determine, it's all these decades, because whatever age you are now, chances are you are saying to yourself, how did I get this old? And then you're going to say the same thing 5 years from now and 5 more years from now. So the years just go on by. We might as well start thinking about that direction now.
Yeah, I joke a lot, and I'll tell people, well, when I was younger, I wanted to be able to do a Tough Mudder, and now, my program and the things I think about is I want to be able to wipe my own butt when I'm 120.
Absolutely. And you don't know that's a potential problem until you start getting into that, working with older adults, or until your own parents are starting to get to that need where you're realizing, oh my gosh, that is the kind of independence and dignity I want to have.
Yeah. And so someone will come in and they'll say, hey, I want to lose some weight. I want to lose 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 70 pounds, whatever it is. Typically, when they're talking to a personal trainer like myself or like
Mm-hmm.
you, they're saying, hey, I want to lose some weight. And I'm like, that's cool. But I said, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be
Mm.
5, 10, 15 years from
Mm-hmm.
now? And they look at me like, okay. And I said, no, really, like, how do you want to feel? What kind of energy do you want to have when you wake up in the morning? When you walk around, do you want to be on a walker, or do you want to be the person that's, bouncing around the silver sneakers? So in your book, you get into some of the key areas of fitness that I think are really around that story of who do you want to be? Could you talk about those key areas of fitness and then just some general things that we need to consider as we look at each of those and why those would be important to us as we get a little older every day?
Yeah, well, the core areas of fitness that you want to address, one of the primary ones is strength training. And I talk about that first because most people always assume cardiovascular exercise is going to go first. And we need cardiovascular exercise for heart health and for overall energy level and endurance. And so that's really important. But strength training tends to be something that I love to highlight because less people are familiar with it. And it has so many benefits as we age because the average person loses 50% of their leg strength between the ages of 20 and 80. And you know that this is starting to affect you when you notice in yourself or an older adult that you know who has a difficult time getting out of a chair without using their hands to push off. So we want, if we really want to maintain that independence, if we really want to age as healthily as possible, it's leg strength and overall physical strength that is one of the most important things that we want to impact.
Yeah, that one of the things that it kind of drives me nuts about gyms, but I understand it now from a from a traffic flow perspective. Is as you walk into almost every gym, the first thing you see are the cardiovascular machines,
Yeah.
and then 75% of the people fall off right there, because that's as far as they're going to go in, and then the next is a set of machines. So then you're going to have about another 20% fall off right there. And then you get back to the free weights where, you got that last 5%. So yeah, actually owning a gym now, I understand that flow and why it works that way, because it just makes it easier for cleaning, for management, for all of it. Plus it just works better for everybody. But we got to get people deeper in the gym.
We do. Or, even just home routines. And one of the sweet spots that I like to focus on is when people want to do a small strength training routine that they can do in their homes with something like dumbbells, exercise bands, and a ball. And for very little investment, you don't have the commute time, and it's a modest investment of time. And once again, you can get great benefits because if you don't see yourself as someone who's ever going to go to a gym, if you don't want to go to a gym, that you can do strength training at home and get great benefits from it.
Yeah. Another thing that's really easy to do, at home is the cardiovascular. And I always approach cardiovascular and saying, yeah, it's good to do. Most people, when they get into it, enjoy it because it can start at their level, whether it's walking or running or biking or skiing or whatever you turn it into. But I really approach cardiovascular training from the perspective of you need the stamina to keep up with your granddaughter when you take them to the zoo. They're going to
Yes.
the monkeys to the lions, and you want to be able to keep up with them. You don't want to be sitting on a bench waiting for the family to finish their zoo trip. So what are some things that we can do at home for cardiovascular strength?
Yeah, and the good news is that it can start and end at your own front door with walking, as you mentioned. You don't have to have any pieces of cardiovascular equipment. You can just do walking, but you can also, if you do want to invest in a piece of cardiovascular equipment, then again you have that convenience. It's right there. You can an elliptical machine or a stationary bike, or you can take an outdoor bike. Well, first of all, you can ride it outside, or you can get one of those little trainers where you prop it up on something inside and ride it inside. And then, of course, it's really popular now. And I have a lot of clients that I work out with on Zoom who I take them through circuit workouts where you might take 4 to 6 exercises that are cardiovascular in nature, whether it's whatever level the person is at. It could be something that's high intensity, like a jump squat, or it could be something lower intensity, which is just kind of like a march. But if you string a bunch of them together and you go through each move 30 seconds at a time, you can get your own little cardio circuit going indoors.
Yeah. Now, one of the areas I think gets skipped a lot, and it really depends on the individual because what I found is individuals who are already flexible love flexibility training. People who are already
That's
strong love
right.
strength training, uh, but flexibility and balance training, I think, are the most ignored fitness areas that I see, and it's really hard because you get a client in, and they're like, they can't move through a full range of motion, or you're
hmm
asking them to do a movement and their balance isn't there. And I have to admit myself, at almost 55 years old, my balance needs to be a lot better. I don't want to fall, so that needs to be an area of training, but it's just an area where I think it's very easy for people to say, I'm not going to do that. Whereas it's also really, really easy to do in the comfort of your own home.
hmm It is. And you're right that balance and flexibility tend to get shortchanged. And I sometimes think it's because they don't impact our appearance. and,
This
and
is this is true. This is
You
true.
know, so when we're at weight loss or toning up, then people are all about that. But as we age, I have seen my clients more and more appreciating the benefits of flexibility and the benefits of balance training as we age, because you're right. We want to be able to go through a range of motion comfortably. We want to be able to reach the high shelf. We want to be able to squat down and reach the low shelf. We want to be able to not get injured. And so flexibility training, one of the ways that I've had a lot of my clients get more into flexibility training. In fact, I have one client who used to be mostly strength training, and now she wants to do a full 30 minutes of yoga-based stretching before we even get into her strength training. And then she loves it so much because when you think about yoga, which a lot of us, like, I was never into yoga when I was a younger fitness person. That was like what I thought, people who were different than me did, but when you say a yoga pose, that puts in your mindset, hey, I'm going to hold this position for a while. And so when we just talk about stretching, a lot of times we rush through it and we get out of position after just a few seconds. So taking that mindset of getting into a position that causes a mild stretch, not pain, and just holding it there. And so going through a short circuit of stretches doesn't have to take a lot of time, and it's going to make us feel so much better. And again, I'm 54 years old. I definitely didn't appreciate the stretching 10 years ago as I do now, and I didn't incorporate it as much as I do now. So definitely as we age, you're just going to feel better and better if you incorporate more stretching.
Yeah, I think, where it comes into play for me was when I started looking at my strength training and somewhat plateauing, because I'm a big proponent of form. If I'm not going to do the lift
hmm
right, I'm not going to do it at all. I'm never going to put load if we can't go through the full range of motion. And I started noticing in my own squats that I wasn't able to get to depth. And as I started putting
Mm.
load on, I wasn't there. And I was like, okay, so what's going on? And so I started paying some more attention to my movement and realized, oh, I'm not dorsiflexing my foot well enough. And that's throwing off my whole kinetic chain. And so I know I'm using a lot of big words here, but the basic gist is I can't bring my toes close up towards my shins well enough. So when I try to do the squat, my butt ends up not where it's supposed to be, and my knees end up where they're not supposed to be. And as a result of my body trying to balance, I lean way forward. And that's not comfortable when you have a lot of weight on your back. So, and sometimes it's not even about the amount of weight that you're lifting. It's just the fact that now you've done something, you have something going on. And if you don't deal with that inflexibility, then you risk injury. And so I think, one of the things with flexibility, you mentioned it, is this is injury prevention. And it feels good when you get.
Yeah, and you mentioned when you mentioned dorsiflexion, it's funny again that we don't think that word's going to pop up in conversation very often. But what happens as we age? If you look at older adults who are maybe up to their 80s, 70s, or 80s who are having difficulty walking and might shuffle when they walk, sometimes it's because they are unable to have that dorsiflexion to do a heel strike and then roll through the ball of their foot. So they're just flat footing, moving their feet, shuffling because they don't have that ankle flexibility. So it comes little by little. So the more we can do that now, do those ankle circles, include more mobility and range of motion exercises in all your major joints, is going to help you. It's going to really bode well for your mobility as we age.
Yeah. And then the final bit of it is balance, because,
Yes.
while you said, we care about how we look, well, falling down in the grocery store because we lost our balance, we don't look too glamorous.
Not a good look.
So, and I want to jump forward a little bit in our plan, because we were going to talk about fall prevention, but, there's a 1 in 3 chance, if you're over the age of 65, there's a 1 in 3 chance that you're going to be laying on the ground sometime this year because you fell. Now, strength training is great because it helps with that, and it also makes sure that you've got the capacity to hit the ground and not collapse, break, because you've got some strength there that's going to support you, some muscle mass that's going to help you, and then of course some flexibility. So if you can move through the full range of motion, you're not stretching or hurting anything, but we can actually do specific training for balance. And I think a lot of people just overlook that.
We absolutely can. But the starting point for improving your balance, I'm glad you mentioned about strength training, because the number one factor in balance and in preventing falls is leg strength. So if you don't have the quad strength to stabilize your walking, that increases your risk of falling. So even if someone's not going to do balance specific exercises, if they just double down on strength training for the quads, you're going to do yourself a great service for preventing falls. And then for specific balance training, even just picking a couple of the exercises like a tandem stand and then building up to changing your position to more and more like you're standing on a tightrope. Even just a little test you can do for yourself is, can you stand on one foot without holding on to something? And if so, how long? And that's something you can practice while you're cooking. You can do that anytime.
Yeah, it's one of the things I tell people is, standing on one foot is one good one. Another one I like is when you're in the kitchen working, instead of pivoting to walk to a different direction, walk sideways, do a shuffle from side to side. You want to go down the counter, you can put your hand out to make sure you're not going to hurt yourself if you were to slip a little bit, but just going up and down the counter side to side, because we just in a normal course of our day to day aren't prepared for that side to side movement. And that's actually where a lot of the falls that become really dangerous are, is because we fall sideways and we land on a hip. And so, anything you can do to just improve your performance, and I don't mean that in an athletic perspective, but just performance of your day to day is going to go along.
Yeah, and just kind of knowing what the other risk factors are. Most falls happen at night when you're getting up to go to the bathroom. That's when a lot of falls happen, because someone might not have their glasses on. They might, it's dark. There's stuff in the way. So whatever we can do to make sure that our home is set up in a way that reduces our risk, and that thinking about footwear, thinking about if we have medications that could be contributing to dizziness. There's a lot of things to look at, but it's so important, because the statistics, as you mentioned, Alan, are that falls are a biggie after the age of 60.
And even before then, to be honest with you, I like I said, I know I need to be working on my balance. There's this one step outside of our apartment, and it's wooden, and it's set at like a 30-degree angle. So it's supposed to be a handicap ramp, but no, it's too slippery. My wife has fallen there, and I've fallen there. You're stepping,
wow.
trying to walk across it because it's part of the sidewalk, and if you just step on it, it's just a little bit wet. Your feet are going. So having that strength, having that capacity to be able to hit the ground, because if you've been doing the strength training, you've also been improving your bone density, and so you don't break. Those are really, really important. Strength training, resistance training, or weightlifting. People hate some of those words and are okay with others, but they're all generally the same thing. Requires someone to have a little bit more knowledge than just walk in there. There's a machine, just go at it till you're done. Can you talk a little bit about strength training? How we would set it up? If someone was going to come in and say, okay, I want to do a strength training program, what are the things that they would want to know to just know what they're doing when they're doing their program?
Well, the first thing that you want to know about strength training is when you talk about how much weight you're going to lift. People walk in and also which exercise. You see a sea of machines, like, well, which exercise, which machines do I do? Which combination of machines? And so the first step is to know you've got a list of major muscle groups, right? And you want to hit each major muscle group. So you want to have a balanced routine. So that's step number one, is knowing that, okay, let's start off with one exercise for the chest, one for the back, one for the shoulders, so that you're not heavy duty hitting one muscle group a ton with all these machines and something else is getting completely ignored. So you want a well-balanced routine as far as hitting each major muscle group. And then the next thing that most people make the mistake with is selecting a weight that is either too heavy or too light. For when you learning proper form is so important, but then you should, if you try to do an exercise and you can't do it correctly, and it's just that you should automatically know that's a red flag. It's too heavy if you can't keep your form. And then knowing the term or the kind of range of 12 repetitions is kind of the hallmark for general conditioning for when you should reach your fatigue point. So let's picture you're picking up a set of dumbbells and you're going to do a set of bicep curls, because that's an exercise most people are familiar with. Now, I'm going to speak from a woman's point of view, Alan, that we women are marketed with pastel, pink, 1 and 2 and 3 pound dumbbells. Okay.
I have to admit that, that's what I've got in my gym. I've got a chrome set too.
Well, most women I know, even, no matter when we're getting older, don't need to be using 1 pound dumbbells to do bicep curls unless you really have significant strength issues or recovering from an injury. So you could do 1 million of them at 1 pound. So you need to find the weight that causes fatigue right around 12. So if you can't get to 12, the dumbbell's too heavy. If you get past 12, you blow right past it and you're way past it and you forgot how long ago 12 was, the weight's too light. So you need to kind of experiment and find that. So again, most women, even 3s are too light for most women for bicep curls. So you need to experiment, find what that right weight is for you to get to fatigue right around 12. And you'll need to do that for every exercise.
Yeah. And that's what they'll sell. They'll sell you the when you buy the dumbbell sets, those smaller dumbbell sets, pretty much anything under 15 pounds is likely going to be rubber coated and probably have a pastel color to it. Mm-hmm. After you get there, then they're thinking, okay, these are the weights. And unfortunately, I don't mean this is a bad way, but these are the weights the guys are going to use. So they can be a little bit more metal or they might be rubber coated, but they'll be black. It's just realize that strength comes not from doing the same thing over and over again. It comes from pushing yourself to that fatigue level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people, as we age, we're worried about getting injured. So you don't want to use a weight that's too heavy, and thereby risking injuring yourself. But if you're doing a weight that's way too light, you're not going to get results because the muscles are responding to overload, and that's how they grow, is by responding to a weight that is is challenging. So finding that happy medium where it's heavy enough to cause the muscles to grow, but not so heavy that your form goes all crazy and you risk hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Is kind of, that's why getting advice, having support, with my personal training clients, I have a lot of Zoom personal training clients who just schedule a handful of sessions up front to learn the proper form, to make sure they're doing things correctly, and make sure they have somebody observing them so they can observing the form to find the right weights, and then just check in with them periodically versus having someone who's going to be with them for their workouts every single time.
Yeah. And sometimes, maybe you're limited a little bit with the amount of weights you can afford to have at home. You buy a set of dumbbells, and, the things about once you start getting up to 20 and 30 and 40 pounds of dumbbells, those dumbbells are going for about $1 a pound. So
yes,
it can start adding up. So, yeah. Sometimes the way you get to your limit is not necessarily through more weight. It's by adding additional sets.
Yes. Yeah. And so a starter program would be perhaps, usually like 1 set per muscle group, right? But then if you add sets, 2 sets per muscle group or 3 sets per muscle group is a way to add intensity and build strength more quickly. And you might have, 2 sets for the same muscle group, but there are different exercises. So maybe for your chest, you have 1 set of chest press and 1 set of dumbbell flies. And so that's 2 sets for your chest, slightly hitting the chest muscles in a slightly different way. So variety is good, but it's not essential. And I guess sometimes I don't hear very many fitness professionals saying that because variety is better. But a lot of the clients who I work with, we're not going to do anything at all. And so I always tell them, if you do a strength training routine that you never change ever, that's still better than not doing one at all.
Yeah. And that's why, particularly a lot of folks, as I mentioned, the distance they'll go inside of a gym when they first get there is a lot of people will make it to the circuit training area, which is a series of machines. And the goal basically is to go through all of these machines. There's usually 7 to 10 of them, depending on how the circuit's set up. And that will give you a full body workout. It's actually really well designed for someone that doesn't know a whole lot. And the machines make it easy to do the work without the concern that you're really going to hurt yourself, as long as you just don't drop the weight on yourself and you are still not, changing your body position while you're in the chair. But it's the same thing. They get on the machine, they do the same weight, the same number of sets, they go, same number of circuits, that it's the same workout every day. And I mean, every day. Let's talk a little bit about rest, between exercises or sets and in rest between sets.
Yeah, well, first, actually, I thought you were going to talk about rest between days, because since strength training, the whole purpose of strength training is to microscopically shred your muscles, that you're not going to get stronger if you are strength training the same muscle groups 2 days in a row. So that's why you hear about taking a day off in between. And a lot of strength training routines are like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that you're skipping a day in between. If someone is doing strength training 2 days in a row, it's because they're doing different muscle groups on those days. So that's the recovery time in between your actual sessions. And then when you are in your actual workout, you want to have that rest interval between your sets so that the muscles you can get your energy back to really have, hit that second set strong. So usually you want to have between 1 and 3 minutes between those exercises, depending on how heavy it is. I mean, if you're doing a lighter weight for 12 to 15 reps, you're going to need less rest time, maybe just a minute. But if someone is really trying to build strength, and so they're actually doing less than 12 reps, or maybe just an 8-rep person, so they're doing a heavier weight for only 8 repetitions, they're going to find themselves needing a little longer rest interval before they hit that next set.
Yeah. And so in the book, you get into what you call the Boom Fitness framework. And I think this is a really good framework for anybody, because it's 4 levels. And even within the 4 levels, you scale down and you scale up. So really there's 8 levels. When you break this all down, there's 8 ways that we can approach this that's going to work for anybody.
Yes.
Do you mind going through the four levels and then the kind of the scaling up and down and how that looks?
Yeah, the reason why I created this framework is because I wanted to offer options that when you read the book and you look at all the where you stand and what your motivation level is, how much time you have, that you can pick one as your starter level. And then you can decide when you have more time and more interest, you can go up a little bit. And when you have less time and less interest, you can go down a little bit. But the goal is to never be completely off the scale. That's how we keep fitness going forever, is by having our options to do a little more or a little less. So the first way that I have it separated out is with 2 tracks. And this is actually based on the subtitle of my book, which is Never Too Early, Never Too Late. So we have the Never Too Early track, which has a little more challenging exercises for people who are maybe already a little bit fit, don't have any health or mobility challenges necessarily, or past injuries, and they want something a little more challenging, and they're able to get on and off the floor. And then I have the track called Never Too Late, which has more gentle exercises that are more seated, chair-based exercises, not someone who's not necessarily comfortable getting on and off the floor, somebody who has mobility issues who wants something a little more gentle. So you can automatically pick one of those 2 tracks. And then once you're on the track, level 1 is called Just Move. And this is like someone who really doesn't want something official and just knows they need to doing a little something. And then you go up to level 1 is just a small time commitment. Level 2 is a little more, and level 3 is a little more. So whether you're doing, and each of them has a little bit of cardio, a little bit of stretching, and a little bit of strength, or a medium amount of cardio and stretching and strength. And so I really want readers to have an honest little discussion with themselves. What's realistic for me? How much time am I really willing to commit? And when you get more excited and want to have a bigger commitment, you can go up a level on that for that week or that month or that phase of your life. And then when you want to do a little less, you can go down a level. And so you know how to adjust. That to me is the key to lifelong fitness, is knowing that you don't have to always stay with the same amount of exercise. You can go up or you can go down based on your needs and your interest level as it changes.
Yeah, and as your fitness level changes, you may have thought, I'm starting over here in my never too late category, but then I start feeling good. My energy level's higher. I'm stronger. I've got more mobility, and I've got this pep in my step. And so I'm going to start walking a little bit further. And now, lo and behold, your exercise level is now putting you at the never too early stage.
Absolutely. I have clients who are in their 70s and 80s who are doing the never too early exercises. Okay. And then I do have clients who are in their 40s who are doing the never too late, because maybe they did have mobility issues or a significant amount of weight to lose, where they're not comfortable with some of the higher intensity exercises. So it's not necessarily age related, and you can go from one track to the other, either way, based on your changing, how your fitness level changes over time.
Cathy, I define wellness as being the healthiest, fittest, and happiest you can be. What are 3 strategies or tactics to get and stay well?
Well, we talked about the first one right up front, which is mindset is king. It truly, truly is. So when I like to say what you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on the negative, that's what's going to grow in your life. If you're focusing on the positive, focusing on what you can do versus what you can't do, you're going to be able to find a way. You're going to get creative, and you're going to get that consistency, because the habit, the consistency is where the magic happens. So if you're down on yourself and you're telling yourself, I just can't do this, I'm too old, it's too late, I've never been athletic, exercise is just for those jock type people, then you're really doing yourself a disservice, because exercise, I call it in Boom, that exercise is the magic pill. Like, it has more benefits in more areas of our life than any other single thing we can do. And we really can't afford not to. We can't afford not to find what is going to fit in for us.
Perfect. Thank you. If someone wanted to learn more about you, learn more about the book, Boom, 6 Steps to a Longer and Healthier Life, where would you like for me to send them?
Well, they can come visit me at cathyrichards.net, and Cathy is with a C, cathyrichards.net, and then /boom is where you find out about the book. But I have got some great new programs coming in 2021. I have some free classes, free master classes, to really focus on how am I going to make 2021 my year? How am I going to fit this in? What am I going to do? What are the top strategies for getting fitness in my life forever. And so I've got those master classes coming up starting tomorrow. I have got one on January 12th, 7 p.m. Eastern. There's one on the 13th, and there's one the following week on the 19th. I would love your listeners to pop on over to cathyrichards.net/2021 to find out about those. And then there's, check out cathyrichards.net/free for lots of other free stuff. So got a lot to offer. Love to connect with your listeners, see how we can help them out.
Great. You can go to 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/468, and I'll be sure to have all those links there. Cathy, thank you so much for being a part of 40 Plus Fitness.
You're welcome. It was great to be here.
Welcome back, Raz.
Hey, Alan. Well, boom. That was quite an interview for sure.
Yeah. If you're a client of mine and you had a good news thing to tell me, you're probably going to hear that word come out of my mouth. So I like that word. And the book was really good too. One of the key takeaways I got from it is, and I think a lot of us forget this, is we're going into this new year. There's an expectation of change, expectation of improvement, and it doesn't happen fast for most of us. You'll see someone who's spectacularly successful, doing what they want to do, dropping weight, getting stronger, doing their thing. But for most of us, it's really a practice of patience, persistence, and consistency to get things done, and just having a general understanding of where we are today. If you are not a runner and you buy some running shoes and decide you're going to go out and start running, don't be surprised if after about 4 or 5 minutes, your legs are screaming at you, you got a stitch in your side, and you're breathing hard and you're tired and you want to quit. You are where you are. The best way to measure that as a point is just that waypoint, that starting point of understanding this is who I am, this is where I am. And then the next time you go to run, which shouldn't be 3 months from now,
True.
Give yourself a day or two, but then get back out there and you'll feel it'll get a little bit better and a little bit better. And it's as I put in my book, the gentle nudging that's going to get you there safely. And, just recognize where you are and who you want to be. And then
Cathy,
slowly work your way there.
For sure. And well, Cathy mentioned that we tend to have this all or nothing attitude that, like you mentioned, if you're going to start running, you should be qualifying for the Boston Marathon, or if you're going to start cycling, you should be ready to join the Tour de France. But it's not necessary. And it's certainly not at all a good way to get started on any sort of regimen at all.
Yeah. And so if you're starting something, whether it's cardiovascular, strength, flexibility, or balance, just recognize what is. Okay. We can't reverse the past. We can, and we shouldn't punish ourselves over the past. It's over. Forgive yourself. It's over. You're changing. And the only way you can change is to implement new habits and just start doing it. But don't feel discouraged if you don't have the strength to do a body weight squat without assistance. Don't get discouraged if when you go out there and you walk to your car, you get winded. And that's why you're always trying to find that closest spot, to the front door of the grocery store. Park a few steps back, take a few more steps. That slow progression is going to get you there if you stick with it.
Oh, for sure. She had mentioned that she mentioned a term, gradual inactivity. And I love that word gradual, because we should be doing or working our way towards gradual activity. Just like you said, just do a little bit extra every day and you'll get to where you want to be eventually.
Yeah. I had a client and she told me, I get winded walking to my car in the morning. So it's cars in her right outside her house. From walking from the front door to the car, she would get winded. And I said, okay, here's your homework for this week. Each day when you walk to your car, I want you to do 1 lap around the car before you get in. And so she did that, and we got on the phone about 3 days later, and I said, how did that go? And she said, well, it was tough, but she said by the 3rd day, I actually did the lap and I was feeling a little bit better about it. I said, okay, for the next 3 days, you do 2 laps around the car. And we went through that, and then she emailed me. I said, how'd it go? And she said, went pretty well. I can do the 2 laps. I said, okay, then make it 3. And I said, every 3 days, just add another lap.
Mm-hmm.
And within a few weeks, she's like, it wasn't about the walking to the car and walking laps. She was walking the neighborhood, and it's just one of those things of saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to do just a little bit more. I know
That's
where I
right.
am, and it's okay. But the true fitness for any individual is going to come from that slight push outside your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
You do the same thing every day, you can't expect better results. It just doesn't work like that. You can't hop on an elliptical or a stationary bicycle and pedal the same pedaling, or do walking on a treadmill, the same walk every day, and expect to see improvements in your health. All you're really doing is slowing the decline, because that's what this is. All wellness really is just trying to be the best person you can be. Cathy's talked about, what an 85-year-old her would be like. And, I've always said, 105-year-old, I want to be able to wipe my own butt. To wipe my own butt, I need the leg strength to be able to stand up off the toilet. To wipe my own butt, I need the ability to twist my body and reach back where I need to reach back to. I need the flexibility to do that. I need the balance so that I don't have to have a rail in there to keep from falling over when I stand up, and do the things I got to do. So to do all that work, I need to train.
Mm-hmm.
And, am I training right now to be the best butt wiper? No, obviously not. But what I do know is that the training I'm doing are going to make me proficient at being the human being I want to be 5, 10, 20, even here 50 years later.
I love that. And the name of one of the tracks she had for her fitness is Never Too Early, but Never Too Late. I love that, because it is never too late to try something new or to be better at something that you can do. Just moving that needle can make a big difference.
Yeah, and she had the 4 levels. So again, it's where you are. If you're just getting started, and she's just move a little bit more. It's an extra lap around the car.
Mm-hmm.
It's using the stairs. It's parking a little bit further away from the door to the grocery store. It's walking during your break. You get a 15-minute break at lunch. It's at work, instead of you use 5 to 7 of it to go to the bathroom, and then you just walk around for the next 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You're back at your desk 15 minutes. You feel fresher. You feel more awake, and you're probably going to be more productive at work, and that's going to translate into your relationships, your performance at work. It's going to translate into a lot of things. So just taking that time to figure out where you are and start.
That's perfect. Just perfect.
All right. Well, Rachel, I'll see you next week.
All right. Take care.
Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we bring back Gary Taubes and discuss his new book, The Case for Keto, Rethinking Weight Control and the Science and Practice of Low Carb, High Fat Eating. Until then, have a happy and healthy week.